Alrighty, so this is the event for the Junction Coalition that we have, and we will go ahead and get started.
Thank you. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Whenever you're watching this presentation, I am Reem Sobey, and I am an attorney with ABLE, Advocates for Basic Legal Equality. ABLE is proud to serve as counsel on a multitude of issues and topics for the Junction Coalition in support of the Junction neighborhood and the Junction community. Today, we're going to be talking about home ownership and probate and tax delinquency issues. I am joined here by Samuel Harden, a local attorney and a Whitmer High School grad. He graduated from Owens Community College before getting his law degree from the University of Toledo College of Law, where I had the great pleasure of being his classmate in several classes. He started his career with the City of Toledo in the City of Toledo's offices, and he is currently a partner at Schindler Neff LLP, and he focuses his work on exactly the topics that we're here to talk about, which is financial and real estate law. Thank you for joining us, Sam.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a topic which is very dear and near to the Junction Coalition. It's a topic that we've had several conversations about, which is the importance of home ownership. Home ownership is one of the defining factors of economic well-being for individuals and families. It helps families build their net worth and build their wealth. So we are committed to growing home ownership in the Black community and to focusing a lot of this growth in communities that have been historically disinvested in, communities that are in poverty. And an example of that is specifically the Junction neighborhood. So we're gonna provide general information today and then take some questions about the home ownership process and how to ensure that individuals have their homes protected and to be able to navigate the foreclosure process and hopefully avoid it. So Sam is going to get us started, and then he and I will kind of tag team on different issues. We'll take some questions and we'll get into a larger conversation about the importance of this topic. Sam, take it away.
Thank you very much, Reem. Well, I guess to start, for those just looking to buy their first home, kind of the overview, the broad, giant overview of the process. First, you're going to want to contact a lender and get pre-approved, which is especially important in a seller's market like we have right now. And then once you do that, you can start looking for the houses, and they'll kind of give you a guideline of affordability, what you'll be able to keep, percentages of your income that they'll run through to make sure that you qualify for the loan. That way, once you get the loan, you'll be able to get the property pretty quickly. I'm sorry, Reem, what was the second thing that you'd mentioned? I wanted to touch on it and I forgot it before I wrote it down.
Yeah, tax delinquency and foreclosure.
Tax delinquency, okay. Well, I'll get to that a little later then, I guess. Foreclosure. So I guess the home buying process is pretty straightforward. What might be more timely right now to talk about is the COVID structures for those that already have a home and are facing potential foreclosure or other action where they could lose the home. There are, I believe the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimated 2 million homes currently in foreclosure, or not foreclosure status, but forbearance status. And that forbearance has been extended just recently by the administration, and it will last until July 31st at the moment. But they are saying that that is the end of the forbearances. They're not doing any more. And they're looking at those 2 million homes and worrying that they're going to kind of flood the market with foreclosures. But there are a couple of simple steps you can take to prevent it, because unlike the 2008 issue, we have a pretty aggressive agenda from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau to kind of give you a few more options and make sure you have rights to the property and it's not quickly taken from you. And they're not doing some of these, no-look loans, they're no-look foreclosures like last time. Importantly, there is a new rule that just came out yesterday that's going to have 3 new safeguards for you. And these are that the loan servicer companies have to wait 120 days before they can take any action. You have to be delinquent for 120 days. And then they have up to 90 days to contact you and to get a hold of you. So they, at that point, are going to be 7 months out before they'll be taking any kind of foreclosure actions. So at least it'll give you some time. The second part of that, the new rule will do, and to make sure that you insist that the servicer does, they have to go through a loss mitigation application with you. Now, this is going to give you your options, whether that be loan modification or loan reservicing, or more importantly, what the current administration is doing is making sure that they basically have to refinance your loan as long as you communicate with the company. And they're giving you 3 options. And this is really, really important to protect the homeowner. And it's something that we haven't seen before. And we're really looking forward to the way that it's going to kind of keep us from hitting this cliff where 2 million people are now losing their home. And what this does is it lets you automatically resume payments with the missed payments or the forbearance payments being moved to the end of your loan. Or the loan servicer must modify the loan's length and interest rate for you, or they must allow you to sell your home. So you're not going to see a bunch of people pushed out and losing all the value of their home this time. But the main point of all of these is that it's dependent upon you answering when the loan servicer calls you. If it goes 90 days without them calling you, they can begin the process without doing any of these things. So if we have any big advice today, is just answer the phone when they call. Hope it's not a auto warranty service. But that's really the the important ways that they're going to protect you is that you're not going to be pushed out quickly. So if you get any communication that says fix it now or you're out, fix it today or you're out, and we don't care, you don't have any options, report that, because they're going to get in huge trouble. They're going to lose their business.
Thanks, Sam. So this is great information. 2 sort of like preliminary points that I want to add is like about the foreclosure process in Ohio. How long does it take? Do you want to talk about that? And, I know it takes 6 to 18 months. So if you want to just give people sort of like an overview of what that process looks like, and can people get their home after there's a sale, but before the court has already approved that sale? And what about bankruptcy? Can someone file for bankruptcy? And is that something that might be helpful? We don't want to give people legal advice on specific situations, but just some things to keep in mind so that they know to go seek help of an attorney.
Sure. Well, so the foreclosure process, like you mentioned, Reem, typically it would be, if it was very quick, at least a year, but more likely it would be at least 16 months to 2 years. And that's going to be pushed back a little bit right now. So they have to, under a rule called Title 10, they have to wait at least 120 days after you're late before they can take any foreclosure action in the court. And now they're going to have that additional rule where you have another 90 days to respond. And then they're going to be required to go through loss mitigation application with you. All of that on top of the fact that many courts were not meeting and not handling lawsuits for the last year or so. We're just now seeing a lot of cases go back up to trial. And I think in Lucas County Common Pleas, we still haven't actually got one back to trial yet. So that usual, 16 to 24 months, we have no idea how long that's going to be, but we think it's going to be at least a good 2 years. And like you said, at the end of it, if the loss mitigation options don't work for you, if the loan servicer won't fix it in a way that you can handle the payments, and at the end of it, you do lose the home, you kind of mentioned briefly that you might still be able to purchase it, which is accurate. Once you do lose the home, but before it's sold off, you have the right of a redemption. So you can come in and you can purchase it if you can get financing for it. Now it's very hard to do at that point, but it is an option that's still available should whatever your current situation be resolved. And then kind of the other option that you mentioned, which is usually a pretty, it's a decent one, bankruptcy. there's a lot that goes into it. And obviously, like you mentioned, we can't tell people whether it's good or bad for their specific situation. Because there's a lot of good things about bankruptcy and some bad. The good thing is that they have what they call an automatic stay. So whether you have collections going on, whether you have a foreclosure going on, any of that, the bankruptcy court comes in and says, stop everything right now. Until we get things resolved, we're not going forward anymore. So it's kind of an option of last resort, but it's a good option.
Yeah, thank you. So, a lot of my clients are people who are renting. And as this foreclosure crisis is coming down, we're also expecting a crisis with evictions where people are being removed from their homes. So the dates are currently the same for the expiration of both of those moratoriums, which is July 31st. But something to keep in mind for people who are renting, who may also expect a foreclosure on the home that they're renting from the homeowner, is that if you are a tenant in a home that's being foreclosed on, you have rights. So you cannot just be locked out of the home. You have to be named and you have the right to go through the court process of an eviction to be removed from that home. In Ohio, it's illegal to simply lock someone out of a home or turn off utilities or forcefully remove them. Any homeowner or bank or entity that has a lien or intends to take back a home or remove someone from a home must go through the court process. So if you're a tenant, make sure to keep that in mind and to claim your rights and review any documents that are coming to your home as notices from the court.
Yeah. And now, what have you guys seen at legal aid regarding the COVID moratorium on evictions? So currently there was a district court that said that the eviction no longer applied, the moratorium, and that seems to kind of have been overturned, but it wasn't clear if it was going to go into effect. Are you guys still advising people fill out the COVID cover sheet and provide that to the landlords?
We're still advising people to fill it out. However, we cannot advise people that it will be accepted because it has been varying from one court to another. We know that in Toledo Municipal Court, the housing court judge has told us back in a couple months ago and continues to not uphold the eviction moratorium anymore based on the decision from the Northern District in Ohio. We have been very fortunate, however, in that we were able to work with people with rental assistance money to keep them housed. So that is, the form is sometimes just a mechanism to delay and to help people get rental assistance so that we can communicate with opposing counsel. So, but that's not the same across, like we serve 32 counties in Western Ohio, and there are some courts that have been willing to uphold the federal CDC eviction moratorium. So, reach out to us if you are a tenant worried about facing an eviction, or if you are a homeowner who is also worried about a foreclosure. So that's great information. Do you want to move into the next topic, Sam?
Well, before we do, I think you had a really good point. I just want to go back to especially if you're in the city of Toledo, there are a lot of different funding programs that they have right now. But most of that is from federally backed funding. So if you live in a different location, you should be able to find some funding for renters assistance. And if not, even if you go to the Ohio-wide search, there are a lot of funds available right now too. And that goes for both the renter and the landlord. Both of them are allowed to apply for those funds to kind of cure the back owed debt.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that point. There's a lot of money right now, and the government is trying to get that money out to people who need it. So if you need that money, even if you're not sure whether you qualify, even if you have some money that's owed from before COVID, or even if you don't necessarily have the evidentiary documents to show that this money was the result of COVID, go ahead and apply for the assistance. And try to get the money, because a lot of flexible sources of funding are currently available for people.
Yeah, and then you wanted to go into, I think, probate. Is that our next?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about how people can take affirmative steps or responsive steps to protect their homes and keep the homes in the family, in the community, and maintain home ownership.
Sure. Well, so we kind of talked about, why home ownership is so important, not only to the individual, but to the community as well. So, of course, we want to kind of keep it and not lose it. There are a few different ways that you can plan for home ownership and how it's going to pass on. A lot of people think of will as the last will as the main vehicle, but this really just says who gets it. That's one way that you can do it. There's a couple other ways. One is if you have a joint tenancy. This is where you live with somebody, and if one of you passes away, the other individual will then take ownership of the house without really doing much. You'll have to record a few things, but there's no other process that you have to go through. There's another kind of easy way in Ohio. They used to have what they called a transfer on death deed. Now they just call it a transfer on death affidavit, which is something that you'll file with the recorder's office. But it just says, this is the person that my house goes to after I pass. And the reason why you would pick that over the deed we just talked about is current ownership. So when you want to do something where you own it together and one of you keeps it if the other passes, the survivorship deed is the best way to go for that. And if you want to do it where you own it and you don't want somebody else to have it until you pass, and you can change your mind later if you want, then you can file the affidavit, and that'll take care of the transfer for you. Now, there are a lot of times when this is just not going to happen. Somebody forgets, or they buy a new house and an accident happens. What they can do at that point is it's going to go to probate, but not necessarily through probate. And you still have a few options. And you don't really want to go through probate because it is a long and somewhat expensive process. And usually you'll have to get someone to kind of help you through it. So what you can do, and this probably is a good idea to speak with an attorney if you try it, but they do have different ways that you can do a certificate of transfer. And what this is especially if you just have a house, you can use a certificate of transfer to transfer the house without going through the full probate process. Now, if there's a will, you do have to still record it with the court, but you don't necessarily have to do what they call a probate. So you'll be able to transfer the house, notify the court that there is a will, but then go through with the process without having to wait that 6 months to a year or more that the probate court might take.
And Sam, for some people who are not privy to this process, what is probate?
That's a good question. Probate is the process that the court decides what happens to your goods. So if you have a will, for instance, that will be taken to the probate court, and your real estate, your other assets, they'll be accorded out according to your will. And it'll also control who watches your children. You may have other provisions in there about your final resting place, that sort of thing. But the will take care of what you want done. And then it kind of gets a little more complicated after that. You can do what they call a trust, which holds assets instead of going through a will. And there are also different what they call will substitutes, like the transfer on death affidavit we talked about. You can do that with courts, or not courts, I'm sorry. You can do that with banks. You can do that with your title to your car. You can do that with your various assets. So it's important to kind of look at that so you can avoid the probate. Because when it goes to probate, a judge is going to sit there, he's going to look through everything. You're going to have to turn in a lot of forms. You're going to have to wait for them to look at the forms and approve them. And it's just really, it's a long process that if you can avoid, it's better to avoid it as much as possible.
Thank you. So I know that a lot of people deal with the issue of being in homes who were passed down to them, but they're not on the deed, right? They don't remember what happened. There probably wasn't a probate process that took place. Maybe someone rented them the home and then that person either passed away or is just MIA, missing in action. They are not collecting rent. They're not asking them to leave. And this person is living in that home and doesn't know really how to protect it.
Yeah. Well, so there's a few different scenarios you mentioned there. One is when you have somebody that just goes missing and you don't know where to make payments, you don't know what to do about it. The important thing to do in that case is to go to the court and put your rent on deposit with the court in what they call an escrow account. Because if you don't do that, then the another individual might be able to come back, say, hey, I never received this rent. You have to pay it all now. You have to pay late fees for every month. You have to pay interest on every late fee. And it really adds up. And if you can put it in the escrow account, it's there. You don't have to worry about it. They come back, they just take the escrow account, and you're not going to be penalized by any means. Some of the other cases, though, it can be a little complex depending on what's going on. So if you, for instance, you live in a home and the individual that rents it doesn't have any family, he really considers you family, he or she considers you family. And then they, kind of have an expectation that they're going to just let you live there and it's going to become yours, but they never record it. In that case, unfortunately, you're probably not going to find a way to get ownership of it. It's going to be turned over to the state through what they call intestacy laws, which just means if you don't have any survivors, the state takes all of your stuff if you don't have a will. So in that case, it's really going to be an unfortunate situation if you don't get at least a will, if not some kind of a deed recorded for the property. Some of the other cases, though, you have more options. So if your family especially, a loved one passes away, your mother passes away, your father passes away, they give the house to you, but they never recorded that anywhere. That's when you would go to the probate court, and depending on the situation, you can ask for that transfer of real estate, or you can go through the probate process. At the end of it, whichever way you go, the court's going to give you a paper that you just take across the street to the recorder's office here in Toledo. You take it across the street to the recorder's office, they record it, that's the new deed. But it's just a matter of how you get to that end is going to depend on a lot of what the actual specifics of the case are.
Yeah, and so one of the great resources that can help people in this area is the land bank. The land bank is really committed to helping people take care of the homes that they live in, especially if those homes are at risk of becoming blight or being unrepaired, becoming a nuisance. So if you live in a home and you want to do a whole bunch of repairs, you don't currently have title to that home, nobody's been paying taxes on that home, and the county and the city and the state have not done anything in a few years, there may be a process where the land bank can help you get ownership of that home, and in return for you doing all the repairs that are needed for that home. So be sure, as Sam said, to check out different sources of assistance through different, the federal government, the city, also the land bank. And, to be clear, you're always welcome to reach out to us with questions. I know this is a lot of different resources that we're mentioning here.
Yeah, those are all really good ones. Another one that they might want to consider, a lot of communities have what they call a CDBG, organization that administers the community development block grants. And I'm not sure if Junction Coalition does that or not. I know some do in South Toledo and other areas, but they also may have access to a funding source if you're in need for repairs or first-time home buyer in some areas and other programs.
Okay, well, thanks. I want to see if Eunice or Amir or Kayla have any questions for us.
This is Eunice. No, I don't have any questions. This is excellent, excellent information. And I hope, like I said, that they continue and they're recorded and we can just disseminate these throughout the community. Because one thing is important is knowledge is power. And one thing we want to do is be as proactive as we can when it comes to real property and property ownership and stuff. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. if we have a minute, did you want to discuss the tax delinquencies? That might be one more good one to
Yeah,
stick on.
please, let's do that.
Okay. Well, so tax delinquencies for the property, it's going to go through the county, and they're going to notify you that property taxes haven't been paid. They are, especially here in Lucas County, they are very good to work with as long as you keep up communication. That's the number one kind of rule that they always say, talk to us. We'll do as much as we can to help you out. They have payment plans. They have all sorts of different things that they can do. But say that you're living in a home where you don't necessarily have the title, and then you find out that it's in county court for a tax foreclosure. At that point, you can still reach out, and as a resident, they will often put it on a payment plan as long as you make a 25% or so down payment or show them why you can't afford that, and then they'll kind of get you on the payment plan again. And now there's a lot on the other end of the tax delinquency that you can do that gets a little more complex. But that's the main thing is just call the county, let them know what's going on, and they'll more likely than not be able to help you get it fixed.
And I can testify to that. I have helped folks work with the county, and they have been very cooperative to assist with payment plans or assist with any questions, really. Even if the matter was handled by the state, the county offices are willing to help you navigate that too. So thanks for mentioning that, Sam.
And then I think that's everything.
I think that's everything. I think we really gave a great overview of the different issues, and you know, I want to open it up again and see if there are any questions.
None for me.
No, I don't have any questions yet. I'm appreciative of all the information that you've shared this evening.
And I don't have any as well. I know I was filling in for Miss Alicia, but definitely it was a lot of good information to hear.
Well, thank you. Unless you have anything to add, Sam, I think we can leave it at that. And then we're happy to have another session to delve into more specific community member questions about any of the processes we discussed.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'd love to come back and answer any questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us, Sam. We appreciate you taking the time out of your private practice and your lovely 2 kids to join us and talk to us about these issues. And there's Alicia.
I was trying to tell Dr. Duran, our superintendent of schools, I'm like, I have a call I'm supposed to be on, but I knew that Miss Eunice and Mr. Amir, and they most capable, amazing Kayla, will take good care of you with Reem. Thank you. I just wanted to jump on and say thank you so very much. When we start looking at foreclosure and generational displacement, those are conversations we want to have. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if you guys, Reem, Sam, and Alicia, once heaven help us, COVID is whatever is going to be or over, maybe we can do a clinic or something to that effect, or to help people come down.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Definitely do that. I know that, for instance, next door, my neighbor, her mom has been dead for 20 years, but she's still living in her mom home, not paying the taxes.
Oh.
And so there's going to be some repercussions on that. And she's trying to get the taxes paid off now, but what do we do and how do we do it? We have other situations where insurance fraud, insurance redlining, where they don't want to insure in communities of color or low socioeconomics. They've set these different standards, and I know we have the Fair Housing Center for that. But Sam and Reem, when you begin to have conversation about foreclosure, tax delinquency, and housing disparities, such as, you as a community, a homeowner in a community that has low socioeconomics is you're keeping your home up, but your neighbor isn't. And so you are also dealing with the disparity of a dilapidated community. What do you do then? You know, so there's so much we have to have conversations home ownership. So I would like to do a public conversation as well as maybe an open air where people can come and sit down and talk with you, Sam and Reem, and get the information.
Mhm.
Ask the attorneys.
Yep, that's awesome.
We would love to do that. And I'm going to take note of a clinic. We don't have to wait until we're back in person to hold a clinic. We've been holding a lot of virtual clinics. So I'm going to make a note of that, and I'll work with you, Alicia, on potentially setting up a clinic to assist all of those individuals. And I'll talk to Sam and others about it. Okay.
Perfect.
That would be Eunice. Reem, I am learning not to overload myself. Look
All
at
right.
me.
I will talk to Eunice.
All righty.
All righty.
Have Mr. Amir on, who has taken on a number of housing issues alone and been an advocate for so many. And Kayla, who has gone through some of the different programming of house buying, but why don't we end up with the end result? Those are conversations we really need to start to have. If people are sitting down and going through the NOTA programs, if they're going through the city programs, and at the end, they don't end up with a house, what's really going on? Because there's federal money going into these locations. There's all kind of state and local dollars going in, and the services should be meeting the means of why they are there.
Right. And yeah, yep. And you know, I want to answer that question. That question is on the tip of my tongue. So I have several answers to that question, but you know, for another meeting.
Reem, we'll look forward to it, and I'll probably give you a call tomorrow if that's okay, Reem, for us to just get down with it, putting some things in place. All housing stuff will be Eunice, all business stuff will be OC. But I want to send you an email. I'm putting together a matrix and getting my processes together, so you'll be proud of me. All right.
I'm always proud of you, Alicia.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, everyone, and thank you for all that you do for the Junction community. Have a blessed night.
All right.
Thank
Have a
you
good
all.
All righty. Have a good one, you guys.
Bye now.